you today, sharing a process video for My Creative Scrapbook Kit Club using the June limited edition kit. This kit is full of so many goodies, but the primary paper and embellishments are from 49 Market's Flower Emporium, designed by Vicki Boutin. I'm really impressed with these papers and the embellishments that coordinate with them. It's really fun. They're very interesting and something a little new and fresh for the scrapbook community. Here you can see me using the stencil that comes in the kit, and this is also also Vicki Boutin, and I'm using a peeled paint distress ink there just to kind of go down the middle there, and then I do end up covering a lot of it there, but I know it's there, and I thought that would just be a really nice touch and bring in some more green. I love the little squares on the left-hand side of the page, and then I really love the text on the right-hand side. This would make a great paper for junk journals or, just anything if you don't want to use it for a layout. But I'm going to be scrapbooking a picture of one of the granddaughters on a trip last December to Quito, Ecuador. She was down there for both a mission trip and to visit with her missionary sister down in that area. Here you can see me also bringing in the rice paper that was included in our kit. This is from Stamperia. And I was going to cut that, but then I remembered that, I just needed to add a little bit of water and I'd be able to tear and then have a more ragged edge. So that's what you see me doing here. I didn't have a cup of water already on my desk, so I just opened up my spray bottle of water and just dipped in there, and then, afterwards I freshened it up, of course. But anyway, I wanted to just have some ragged edges so it would blend in very nicely with the background. And so I had considered putting that in the center, but then when I knew that's kind of where the photo was going to have to go, I decided to, make it all the way over to the right. And I'm going to be using some distress collage medium to adhere this to the paper. You can also use something like Mod Podge. I just love rice paper for so many different things. One thing I really enjoy using it for is putting it on 4x4 tiles that you can get from a hardware store like Home Depot or Lowe's, and you can make quick little coasters out of them, by just then putting some moleskin on the bottom so it won't scratch your furniture. And I only had 2 tiles on hand, so otherwise I probably would have done a project making some of those coasters because they're really fun and kind of unique to have in your house. But anyway, I adhered and then covered this rice paper with some of that distress collage medium. And then, I just put the cap back on, but generally I do put some saran wrap or something over that. And then I just heat it a little bit to make sure that the, glue, if you will, is dry. And then I run my paper along the edge of my media mat to, straighten the paper out. And then I'm going to get ready to look for something to go behind the doors of that little piece from the kit that the little doors open. And so I wanted some flowers, and so I'm mounting this actually behind I believe this was from the laser cuts. If not, it's from the ephemera pack. But I just adhered that to the back with just regular glue because, it's not going to show or anything. And then I was trying to save the rest of my rice paper in case I used it somewhere else. And then I kind of fiddle with my photo. I'm going to use some corrugated cardboard to go beneath the photo because I know I'm going to be having some floral clusters, and I'll be finally getting around to using the 3-dimensional flowers that are in the kit. And so I'm using just a couple of pieces there to lift my photo up, and I've already pre-matted my photo, and I've added a couple of the tags that are in the kit on one of the tag sheets. I just picked something that I picked a black one to kind of pull out my granddaughter's jacket there, and then another one that had that same little kind of mixed media design that you see in the upper left and lower right corners of this paper. And I thought they would coordinate nicely. And there I'm using my T-square just to kind of make sure my photo is squared up, and go both ways with it. And then you're going to be seeing me bring the door alongside the photo, and I deliberate about whether I want that to be straight up and down or whether I kind of wanted it to be cockeyed just a little bit. But then I decided that really didn't look quite right, so in the end I use it straight. Excuse me, my mouth was dry. I had to get me a drink of water. But anyway, so I just use regular glue to go ahead and adhere that alongside the photo and in between that little other piece of rice paper with the butterflies on there. So this just kind of, I wanted to do a little bit of what, junk journal kind of style, but, in between that and just a regular layout. So then I start bringing in some ephemera that I had already, chosen. One thing here is this laser cut string, drawstring, and so I play around with, do I want it to go vertical or diagonal, and which side of the photo, etc. This may not be the best photo to use it on, but I didn't think I'd be using it on my next layout, so I was really trying to use it here. I kind of like it on the right like it is there, but that is not how it ends up. It ends up being on the left because there's a little more free area there. But I'm experimenting here with, some of my little ephemera bits to see how those are going to look. And I like to put my florals in odd numbers, so I kind of started with 3. And then I knew I wanted to try to bring in one of the 3-dimensional little birdie flowers. And so I'm just repositioning and auditioning. And I thought these jewel tone flowers would work really well with the colors of the little squares that are on the left-hand side of my background paper. This is just a really fun collection to work with. There's just so much in our kit this month because one of the packs, the ephemera pack, has over 200 pieces in it, and the other one, the chipboard, has I think 90 something, 92 or something like that. So there's plenty to work with. So you see me playing around with my flowers and getting them just so. And as I work, my cluster gets bigger and bigger. At this point, I don't think I've adhered anything. I'm just placing everything. And I want to use some butterflies because there's a lot of butterflies in the kit. Some of them are kind of big for me, but this is a more medium size one that I thought would work well. And that's where my little bow is going to live. It looks like June. Ideally, I guess it would be to wrap around a bouquet of flowers that you would get from the market or whatever, but I'm just trying to add it to my photo there. It's really cute. There are several of them in the laser kit of, various sizes and just little pieces as well that I've already used. So that's going to go right there, and I did have a fine tip on my glue bottle. I'm using berry glue, so I just trim that off right there and let it dry. And then I play around with different things for my title, and I'm looking at using that adventure one, which is one I do finally go with because Marianne is on, a trip out of the States, and she's going, basically into the Amazon area. And she's afraid of bugs. So this was a big step forward for her. But here they were visiting a church in Quito, and there was a little coffee shop cafe right there that they stopped in. And so the photo is her drinking a hot beverage there. I kind of did a close-up of her in the photo, but if you enlarge the photo and look in the background, you can see some of the town of Quito behind her. So there I'm just adhering my flowers, and I'm using a combination of the foam and my glue. I'm using one of those sideways butterflies, and it's just flying along. I'm going to take a sniff of these florals that I've created there. And you can see as I work, I do begin to cover up a lot of the stenciling that I did with the stencil, which is kind of unfortunate, but I know it's there. I thought about adding some more along the right-hand side, but I was really afraid I might mess up the page if I did that and it not look quite right. So I've left it. As I'm sitting here thinking, I could have added some more to the left of the branding strip that I put right there in the center. And I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm probably reaching for something, and I forgot to edit this part out. I think I've gone off to look for other title options, because there are pieces in the ephemera pack that some say lovely, some say gorgeous, and that kind of thing. And so I do experiment with those. Oh, I know. I see what I did. I went and was looking for one of my favorite stamps. And this is an old one from Creative Embellishments. And then I'm just using some archival ink. And this is, something I would do a lot of times on a regular scrapbook page, but also definitely if this was a junk journal piece or a tag, then that would be something I would for sure be using. But I just wanted that to kind of be around my focal area there. And I was having trouble finding my stamp, and then I found it right on top of my ink pad, which I kind of need to reactivate because it's getting kind of dry. Anyway, once that's done, I know I can go ahead and add my butterfly. But I wanted to be sure I had plenty of design area for my stamping. I really like the purple butterfly, and I like that teal one that you can see over on the right-hand side of my mat. I'm not sure what was going on with my camera setup here, or if I just moved my media mat a whole lot, but I do apologize for the angle. And there I begin working on that lower cluster, and I'm ready to adhere that, and I'm using a foam tape for that and just tearing it off as I go. You can clip it with your scissors or however you want to use it, but it's easy enough to tear. And then I put that little flower in and tuck it under and put the leaves to the outer edge so you can see the leaves. And then I'm going to add the teal butterfly right there. I don't want him to be at the exact same level as that purple one, so I'm bringing it down just a little bit. And then I'll be ready to work on my title pieces. I'm going to take that adventure ultimately, and I'll be distressing it with vintage photo and then popping it up on some of my foam tape. But here's where I also grab that one piece right there that I've been planning to use, and I can't read it, but it's like I think it says follow your heart, and it has stitching on it that's really cute. But there's also some great title pieces in there. The lovely, gorgeous, grow, any of those would work. I kind of wanted to use the lovely one, but I had a tear that I was not sure I would be able to repair. Grow would have worked nicely, but I thought, I decided that adventure was really what was happening in the photo. So that's why I went ahead and did that. But the grow is a good size, I think, and I think gorgeous. It would work, but it's really not representative of what's going on in the photo. So then I bring a chipboard piece from the chipboard pack. It says documented. I thought that would make a nice big title. And so instead of being a subtitle, it's become the title. And the white part did not tear away easy, so I went ahead and put my glue on the white covered part. Although if you really are concerned about longevity on your layouts, you'd want to be sure and remove that white base off the chipboard and then adhere your glue. And then I bring in some of the green leaves and I play around with tucking them into my floral clusters. There's so much greenery included in the ephemera pack, and so I wanted to be sure and use what was there, and I wanted to use leaves that kind of coordinated with that big leaf that's right there in the upper left-hand area. So really this is a pretty simple layout. You just have to figure out your design first. That's always the hardest part, is figuring out what kind of design you're going to have and what kind of embellishments you think you're going to use. Again, I'm not doing much mixed media on this one. I'm just kind of shying away from that this month, other than my splatters. Not using any, modeling paste or anything like that. Maybe on number 4. I don't have number 4 done yet. Alright, so there I'm putting down Adventure. So that's become my subtitle now because it's a smaller piece. And then I open up my flower pack because I want to add another flower. And I think even off camera I add a pretty large ephemera flower that's from the ephemera pack, and that kind of covers a little bit more of the door, but I had it and it wasn't really going to go with anything else, so I decided to go ahead and use it. There you see me using some Shimmers black paint to do my splattering, and of course I've covered up my photo. I'm going to put details below about how to order a kit, and any questions that you can have, you can direct to Pam at mycreativescrapbook@gmail.com. I appreciate you coming by. Give me a like and subscribe if you're interested in my content. There are some close-ups for you. Thanks again for coming by, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.